The Outcast's entry. The Apex Arena loomed above the city of Vihalterra like a monument to violence, its obsidian walls reflecting the neon haze of alien advertisements and the flicker of distant lightning storms. Within, the blood of 1,000 species had soaked the sand, and the galaxy's most ruthless watched, wagered, and reveled. Tonight, the crowd was restless. Rumors had swept through the upper tiers. A human would enter the arena, not a champion nor a soldier, just a girl, exiled from her world for reasons no one cared to know. The odds against her survival were so astronomical that the betting AIs had crashed twice, recalculating the numbers. In the preparation chamber, Nia Carter stood alone. She was tall for a human but slight compared to the hulking guards who flanked the door. Her brown hair was cropped close, her gray jumpsuit stained from travel. She had no armor, no weapons, and no allies. Only the cold gaze of the arena's overseer, a four-eyed insectoid named Captain Vrelix, watched her with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "Step forward, human," Vrelix hissed, his mandibles clicking. "The audience grows impatient." Nia did not flinch. She met his gaze, her own eyes steady. "Let's get this over with." The guards prodded her forward. The doors slid open, and a wave of sound crashed over her, a cacophony of cheers, jeers, and the metallic drone of alien music. The arena floor was a vast circle of sand and broken stone, ringed by force fields and tiers of spectators. In the luxury boxes, diplomats and crime lords watched with predatory interest. A booming voice echoed from the speakers. "By decree of the Confederation, the human exile Nia Carter will face the Apex Arena's gauntlet. Survival grants freedom. Failure is final." A hush fell. The first gate opened with a grinding roar. From the darkness emerged the Rithake reptilian horror, twice Nia's height, armored in bone plates and bristling with venomous spines. Its yellow eyes fixed on her, and it let out a guttural challenge. In the stands, a blue-skinned Polythian noble adjusted her data display. "Odds have shifted to 900 to 1, she murmured. "Fascinating. I wonder if she'll last a minute." Nia's heart hammered, but her mind was clear. She remembered her training not as a soldier but as a survivor. She scanned the arena, a fallen pillar, a patch of loose gravel, a glint of metal half buried in the sand. The Rithak charged, claws tearing furrows in the ground. She dodged left, narrowly avoiding a swipe that would have gutted her. The crowd roared. Nia rolled, snatched up the metal shard, a broken piece of a previous combatant's blade, and spun to face the beast. The Rithak lunged again, jaws snapping. She hurled the shard, aiming for its eye, but the beast jerked aside, the metal glancing off its armored brow. It was fast, but not agile. Nia darted behind the pillar as the Rithak slammed into it, sending cracks spiderwebbing through the stone. She grabbed a handful of gravel, flinging it into the creature's face. It reared back, momentarily blinded. She seized the opportunity, sprinting up the pillar's slanted side and leaping onto the Rithak's back. The crowd gasped. Nia clung to the beast's spines, searching for a weak point. The Rithak bucked, trying to throw her off. She spotted a gap beneath its jaw-soft tissue, unarmored. With a desperate cry, she drove her fist, clutching another shard of metal, into the wound. The Rithak howled, thrashing wildly. Nia held on, twisting the shard deeper. Blood spattered her face. The beast staggered, then collapsed, its body convulsing. Nia rolled free as it shuddered and died. For a moment there was silence, then the arena erupted in disbelief. The Polythian noble's eyes widened. "Impossible," she whispered. In the luxury box, Ambassador Krelth of the Dralori pounded a fist on the railing. "No human has ever survived a Rithak." On the arena floor, Nia stood over her fallen foe, breathing hard. She wiped blood from her face, eyes scanning the crowd. She did not smile. Instead, she knelt and began to work, breaking off one of the Rithak's dagger-like teeth, tearing strips of hide from its flank, and collecting a glandular sac that had ruptured during the beast's death throes. "What is she doing?" muttered a Mullerian observer, his tendrils twitching in confusion. In the preparation chamber, Captain Vrelix watched the screens with growing discomfort. "That's not standard arena behavior," he said to no one in particular. Nia wrapped the Rithak's tooth in hide, fashioning a crude but serviceable knife. She carefully extracted fluid from the glandular sac into a hollow bone. The announcer's voice boomed again. "Challenge 2 will commence in 30 seconds." Nia glanced up at the announcement, quickening her scavenging efforts. She tucked the bone container into her jumpsuit pocket and readied both her new knife and the original electrified stick she'd found half buried in the sand. In the stands, the Polythian noble's data display updated. "Odds now 400 to 1, this is unprecedented." The gate began to rise again. Nia took a deep breath, steeling herself. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for more blood. The second trial. The crowd's roar had barely faded before the arena began its transformation for the next challenge. Nia Carter, bloodied but unbowed, stood in the center, her makeshift knife dripping with the Rithak's ichor. The sand beneath her feet was already stained from the previous battle, but she wasted no time on reflection. Instead, she scavenged, breaking off a dagger-like tooth from her fallen foe, tearing strips of hide and collecting a ruptured glandular sac. Each motion was measured, efficient a survivor's ritual. Above, the Polythian noble's data display flickered. The odds had shifted, but still no one believed she'd last another round. She's adapting, the noble murmured, but adaptation rarely outpaces evolution in the Apex arena. In the preparation chamber, Guard Captain Zrilnax's discomfort grew. That's not standard arena behavior, he muttered, watching Nia wrap the Rithak's tooth in hide to create a crude knife and extract fluid from the glandular sac into a hollow bone. The crowd, too, was murmuring, some with confusion, others with a budding respect. The announcer's voice boomed. Challenge 2 will commence in 30 seconds. Nia's hands moved faster, tucking the bone container into her jumpsuit pocket and readying both her new knife and the electrified stick she'd salvaged earlier. A section of the arena floor slid open, revealing the next opponent, the void mantis of the Cygni's expanse. The creature was a nightmare fusion of praying mantis and jellyfish, with a segmented exoskeleton and a translucent, pulsating bell-shaped head. Within its bell, nebulous patterns swirled like storm clouds. Nia eyed the monstrosity. Psychic jellyfish bugs, because regular jellyfish weren't annoying enough, she muttered, loud enough for the arena's audio pickups. The void mantis oriented its bell toward her. Instantly, a wave of terror crashed over her consciousness, visions of death, memories of trauma, primal fears bubbling up from her subconscious. The audience watched, expecting her to break. Instead, Nia started laughing, a sharp, defiant sound that echoed across the sand. In the luxury box, Krellel, a Dralori dignitary, nearly choked. "Help me, is it laughing?" he demanded, his mandibles vibrating in agitation. The void mantis psychic attack causes incapacitating fear in 98.7% of sentient species, Tythia, a Tythian xenopsychologist, observed. But humans have an unusual response to fear. Under certain conditions, their neurochemistry processes fear as excitement. Absurd, Krellel snapped. It's common among Class 8 plus Deathworld species, Tythia replied. Evolution favors those who can function, sometimes excel under fear. In the arena, Nia circled the void mantis, the psychic assault intensifying. The patterns within its bell cycled faster, confusion evident in its movements. Nia was provoking it, taunting the creature, making sudden feints and darting away as it lunged with blade-like forelimbs. She's analyzing its attack patterns, Kel, a Lothian tactician, muttered, and leading it toward the Rithak's carcass. The void mantis struck, one bladed limb embedding itself in the dead Rithak's hide. As it struggled, Nia darted in from the opposite side, stabbing her improvised knife deep into the joint where the bell structure met the exoskeleton. Simultaneously, she emptied the contents of her bone container, a dose of Rithak venom, into the wound. The effect was immediate. The void mantis convulsed violently, its psychic emanations going haywire. Across the arena, spectators clutched their heads or equivalent sensory organs as they received unfiltered bursts of the creature's death agonies. The mantis collapsed, its bell structure dark and inert. Challenge 2 completed in 2 minutes 12 seconds, the announcer stated, his voice subdued. The crowd was silent, stunned. Many were already adjusting their bets. The odds had shifted dramatically, now merely 15-1 against the human. In the luxury box, Krellel's exoskeleton had taken on an unhealthy pallor. This is unprecedented, Kithian said, scrolling through her data display. There are 17 recorded instances of contestants surviving the first 2 challenges in the arena's 342-year history. The third, none. Florithian, a Florithian scholar, nodded, though I find myself curious about this particular outcome. Nia stood in the center, breathing heavily but composed. She scavenged from the void mantis, breaking off one of its bladed limbs to serve as a weapon and extracting something from its bell structure, which she applied to her original electric stick. The weapon now glowed with an unsettling purplish light. "They're really not making this easy, are they?" she said, her voice broadcast to the increasingly attentive audience. "Though I appreciate the upgrade materials." In the luxury box, Krellel made a strangled sound. "The human demonstrates remarkable resource utilization. Tithia noted, her tone professionally neutral despite the amusement rippling across her skin, a trait consistent with evolutionary adaptation to resource-scarce environments. It won't matter, Krellel insisted, though his confidence was clearly waning. No contestant has ever survived the final challenge. The announcer's voice cut through the tension, final challenge commencing. The center of the arena began to open, a much larger aperture than before. Nia retreated to a defensive position behind a rock formation. The crowd leaned forward, anticipation thick in the air. From the darkness emerged the apex predator, a chimera of at least 5 deadly species. The massive jaws of a Terran great white shark, the multiple limbs of an Arcturian hunting spider, the venomous spines of a Jusian reef stalker, the armored carapace of a Syrian war beetle, and the prehensile tentacles of a Europan deep-sea strangler. Glowing cybernetic implants pulsed beneath its mottled skin, and 12 eyes focused on Nia with malevolent intelligence. The crowd gasped. Nia eyed the monstrosity with a mixture of professional assessment and grim determination. "That's just excessive," she muttered. The apex predator surged forward, moving with terrifying speed. Nia dove aside as its jaws snapped shut where she'd been standing a heartbeat earlier. "Remarkable reflexes," Tathian commented in the box. "Though I calculate they'll only extend her survival by approximately 47 seconds. Krellel's mandibles stilled. The creature is designed to counter any strategy. Its cybernetic systems analyze and adapt to combat patterns in real time. Nia kept her distance, assessing the creature's capabilities. Unlike her previous opponents, this one showed no signs of mindless aggression. It stalked her methodically, cutting off escape routes and herding her away from potential advantages. "A more interesting match than most," observed a Lothian tactician. Suddenly, Nia changed tactics, charging directly at the apex predator with her glowing electric stick raised. The creature reared back, surprised by the aggression. "A suicide attack," Krellel chittered. Just before reaching the beast, Nia hurled the stick at its face. The apex predator snapped at the projectile, catching it in its jaws. The stick exploded in a flash of purple energy, causing the creature to roar in pain and thrash wildly. The void mantis's psychic gland combined with the electrical weapon, Salothian realized. Taking advantage of its temporary blindness, Nia darted beneath the creature, slashing at the joints of its spider-like legs with her salvaged mantis blade. Ichor sprayed as she severed tendons and cybernetic control circuits. "She's targeting the interface between organic and mechanical components," the Lothian said, unable to hide her admiration. The apex predator, now missing 3 of its 8 legs, lashed out with its tentacles, catching Nia around the waist. It lifted her high, drawing her toward its jaws. "It's over," Krellel declared, relief evident in his voice. But Nia didn't struggle. Instead, she pulled the second glandular sac from her pocket, the one she'd saved from the Rithak. As the apex predator drew her closer, she hurled the sac down its throat. The effect was instantaneous. The creature convulsed violently, dropping Nia as its nervous system went haywire from the concentrated venom. It thrashed across the arena, cybernetic implants sparking and failing. Nia wasted no time, retrieving the mantis blade and climbing onto the beast, back. She drove the weapon deep into a central nerve cluster where multiple cybernetic control units converged. The apex predator went still. Silence fell over the arena, so complete that Nia's heavy breathing was audible through the audio pickups. She stood atop the fallen monster, mantis blade still embedded in its body, surveying the stunned crowd with an expression of professional satisfaction. "Final challenge completed in 4 minutes 15 seconds, the announcer's voice finally broke the silence, audibly shocked. "All challenges cleared. By arena law, the human contestant is granted freedom and the rights of a victor." The audience erupted not in displeasure but in wild, enthusiastic approval. Fortunes were made and lost as betting systems calculated final payouts. In various sections, different reactions played out. The HVATH went still in existential shock. Dralori philosophers began mass religious conversion. The Mullerian observers dictated detailed accounts to their neural archives, ensuring this event would be remembered for generations. In the preparation chamber, Guard Captain Zirilnak stared at the view screens, all 4 eyes wide. "Impossible," he muttered. "No one survives the Apex Challenge." Behind him, the door slid open. Representative Telothian entered, followed by a very unhappy-looking Ambassador Krellel. "Prepare for the winner's ceremony," Telothian instructed. The human will need to be processed according to arena tradition. But what about the espionage charges? Zirilnex asked nervously. Settled through combat, as per the ancient laws invoked by the Praxian Dominion, Telothian replied smoothly. Isn't that correct, Ambassador? Krellel's mandibles twitched in suppressed rage. Technically correct, he admitted. Telothian continued. Given the human's performance, the Security Council has decided to offer her a position as a special consultant on xenobiological defense strategies, with diplomatic immunity. On the view screen, Nia still stood atop the fallen apex predator, acknowledging the crowd's agitation with a small, sardonic bow. Whispers and shadows. The aftermath of the impossible victory rippled through the apex arena like a shockwave. For the first time in centuries, the crowd found itself silenced not by horror, but by awe. Nia Carter, human exile survivor, stood atop the corpse of the apex predator, her breath visible in the cold artificial light, her eyes scanning the tears of stunned spectators. In the luxury box, Chancellor Varix of the CERN Dominion leaned forward, his emerald scales catching the light. She's not just lucky, he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. She's dangerous. Beside him, the analyst drone word, projecting a holographic replay of Nia's last maneuver. Probability of premeditated strategy, 94%. Probability of random chance, 6%. Varix's advisor, a silver-furred Nalkari named Jaren, tapped his claws together. We should consider her a variable, not an anomaly. The betting syndicates are already in chaos. Back in the arena, the sand was still. Medical drones hovered, scanning the fallen apex predator while repair bots worked to clear the debris and blood. Nia knelt beside her defeated foe, extracting a glimmering neural core from its cybernetic spine. She studied it for a moment, then pocketed the core, her movements methodical and unhurried. The announcer's voice, now tinged with reverence, echoed through the arena. By the ancient laws of the apex, the victor shall be granted audience and reward. Prepare for the ceremonial passage. The crowd, sensing the shift, began to murmur. In the lower tiers, a group of young Cernlings chittered excitedly. Did you see how she moved, like she knew what the beast would do next? One exclaimed. She's not like the others, another replied, eyes wide. She's learning. As Nia was led from the arena floor by two silent, armored guards, she kept her gaze forward. The passageways beneath the arena were cold and damp, the walls lined with trophies from past victors' skulls, claws, banners from 100 worlds. The guards stopped at a heavy door, which slid open to reveal a circular chamber bathed in golden light. Inside waited the arena master, a towering, six-armed figure draped in ceremonial robes. His name was Gorath, and his face bore the scars of a dozen campaigns. He regarded Nia with a mixture of respect and suspicion. You are the first human to stand here in over a century, Gorath intoned, his voice resonant. Do you understand what you have done? Nia met his gaze, refusing to be cowed. I survived, that's all. Gorath's lips curled in what might have been a smile. Survival is never just survival in the apex. You have changed the odds, you have changed the story. He gestured to a pedestal, upon which rested a crystalline medallion. By tradition, you are owed a reward, but there are those who would see you silenced rather than celebrated. Nia's eyes narrowed, let them try. Gorath chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. You may yet regret your defiance. The Confederation Council has called for your presence. There are questions only you can answer. As the guards led her away, Nia caught a glimpse of her reflection in the polished metal of the chamber's wall. She barely recognized herself, blood spattered, eyes hard, posture unyielding. The girl who had entered the apex was gone. In her place stood something new. Meanwhile, in the shadows, far above the arena floor, in a private observation suite, a figure watched the proceedings through a veil of holographic static. Agent Kestrel, operative of the Interworld Intelligence Directorate, recorded every movement, every word. She's more than she appears, Kestrel whispered into his comm. Her biometrics are off the charts. No baseline human should have survived those trials. A voice crackled in his ear, distorted by encryption. Continue surveillance. If she becomes a threat to the balance, you know what to do. Kestrel's eyes narrowed, understood. The Council's chamber. The Confederation Council's chamber was a study in contrasts, ancient stone columns supporting a dome of shimmering nanoglass, delegates from a dozen species arrayed in a circle. At the center stood Nia, flanked by guards, her hands unbound but watched closely. Counselor Lyris, a crystalline being from the planet Vera, addressed her first. You have upended centuries of tradition, human. Do you understand the implications? Nia's jaw tightened. I did what I had to do, isn't that what the apex is for? A ripple of amusement passed through the delegates. Counselor Varix, now in his official regalia, leaned forward. Some believe you cheated, that you had outside help. Nia's eyes flashed. I had nothing but what I could scavenge. If that's cheating, then your rules are broken. Murmurs echoed around the chamber. Counselor Jaren, the Nalkari advisor, spoke next. You are an outcast from your own world. Why should we trust you? Nia's answer was simple. Because I survived, because I learned, and because I'm not done yet. A silence fell, heavy with meaning. Lyris spoke again, her voice softer. You have earned your freedom, but you have also earned enemies. There are those who will come for you here and beyond. Nia nodded, let them. The arena's secret. As Nia was escorted from the council chamber, a young maintenance technician, a wiry, blue-skinned Yelthan named Pex, caught her eye. He pressed a data chip into her palm as he passed, whispering, Not all here are your enemies. Trust no one, but remember, the arena is older than the Confederation. There are secrets beneath the sand. Nia slipped the chip into her pocket, her mind racing. The arena was a crucible, but it was also a cage. If she was to survive what came next, she would need more than strength. She would need allies and answers. The Apex Challenge. The lights of the Apex arena blazed with a feverish intensity, casting long shadows over the sand still stained from Nia Carter's impossible victory. The crowd had not yet recovered from the spectacle. Some sat in stunned silence, others argued in a dozen alien tongues, and a few simply stared as if trying to process that a lone human in exile no less had survived what no other ever had. But the arena's machinery did not pause for shock or celebration. Its ancient gears and humming force fields signaled the start of the next and final trial. Nia, still breathing hard, stood alone on the blood-soaked ground, her scavenged weapons at the ready, the Rithak's tooth knife, a mantis blade, and the faintly glowing staff she had crafted from the void mantis's psychic gland. High above in the council box, Chancellor Varix exchanged a tense glance with his advisor Jaren. The odds engines are still recalibrating, Jaren whispered, his fur bristling. No one ever reached this stage. The House of Wagers is in chaos. Varix's gaze was cold. If she survives this, the Confederation will never be the same. The arena's center floor shuddered, then split open with a grinding, ancient sound. The announcer's voice, now tinged with awe, thundered through the air. Final challenge, the apex predator. Genetically engineered from the deadliest species known to the Confederation, enhanced with cybernetic augmentations and conditioned for maximum aggression. No mercy, no fear, no weakness. From the darkness below, the apex predator emerged. It was a nightmare given flesh. The massive jaws of a Terran great white shark, the multiple limbs of an Arcturian hunting spider, venomous spines bristling like a Jushian reef stalker, the armored carapace of a Syrian war beetle, and the prehensile tentacles of a Europan deep-sea strangler. Glowing cybernetic implants pulsed beneath its mottled skin, and 12 eyes, each a different color, locked onto Nia with a chilling intelligence. The crowd gasped as one. Even the most jaded gamblers felt a ripple of fear. Nia's grip tightened on her weapons. That's just excessive, she muttered, voice dry, but her eyes never left the beast. The apex predator moved with shocking speed, surging across the arena floor. Nia dove aside as its jaws snapped shut where she'd stood, sand spraying in all directions. She rolled, came up behind a broken pillar, and watched as the creature circled her, methodical, cutting off escape routes. In the council box, the Lothian tactician leaned forward. It's not just hunting, it's herding her away from the weapon's cache. Jaren's claws tapped anxiously, she'll need more than luck now. Nia darted left, then right, feinting, testing the creature's reflexes. The apex predator adapted instantly, adjusting its stance, its tentacles flicking sand in her path. She hurled the mantis blade at its nearest eye, the blade struck but bounced off the armored carapace. The beast roared, a sound that vibrated through the very bones of the arena. Remarkable reflexes, murmured Counselor Tathian, but it won't be enough. The apex predator lunged again, and this time a tentacle caught Nia around the waist, lifting her high. The crowd held its breath. But Nia didn't panic. She twisted, pulling the second venom gland she'd saved from the Rithak from her pocket. As the beast drew her toward its gaping jaws, she hurled the gland directly down its throat. The effect was immediate. The apex predator convulsed, dropping Nia as its nervous system spasmed under the onslaught of concentrated venom. Its cybernetic implants sparked and flickered, organic and mechanical systems warring within its body. Nia hit the sand hard, scrambled to her feet, and seized her glowing staff. She sprinted toward the beast, now thrashing wildly. With a desperate leap, she climbed onto its back, driving the staff deep into a cluster of exposed cybernetic nodes at the base of its skull. The staff's psychic charge discharged in a burst of purple light. The apex predator howled, its tentacles flailing, but Nia held on, driving the weapon deeper. The crowd was on its feet now, a tidal wave of disbelief and excitement. "She's targeting the interface between organic and mechanical components," the Lothian said, unable to hide her admiration. The apex predator, now missing the use of 3 of its 8 legs, tried to shake her off. Nia clung to the armored carapace, using the Rithak tooth knife to sever the last of the control circuits. The beast shuddered, then went still. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the arena erupted. Cheers, screams, and the sound of 1,000 betting systems recalculating odds filled the air. In the council box, Varric sat back stunned. "Mark this day," he said quietly. "The impossible has happened." On the sand, Nia slid from the beast, back, breathing hard. She looked up at the crowd, her expression unreadable. She did not raise her arms in victory, nor did she collapse in relief. Instead, she simply nodded, as if acknowledging an unspoken challenge. The announcer's voice, shaking with excitement, declared, "All challenges cleared. By arena law, the human contestant is granted freedom and the rights of a victor." The arena's doors opened, and a procession of officials, guards, and medics rushed forward. Nia was led away, her weapons confiscated for examination, but no one dared meet her eyes. In the preparation chamber, Guard Captain Zerlax watched the screens, all 4 eyes wide. "Impossible," he muttered. "No one survives the Apex Challenge." Behind him, the door slid open. Representative T. Lothian entered, followed by a very unhappy-looking Ambassador Krell. "Prepare for the winner's ceremony," T. Lothian ordered. "The human will need to be processed according to arena tradition." "But what about the espionage charges?" Zerlax asked, glancing nervously at Krell. "Settled through combat, as per the ancient laws the Praxian Dominion themselves invoked," T. Lothian replied smoothly. "Isn't that correct, Ambassador?" Krell's mandibles twitched in suppressed rage. "Technically correct," he admitted grudgingly. T. Lothian continued. "Given the human, impressive performance, the Security Council has decided to offer her a position as a special consultant on xenobiological defense strategies, with appropriate diplomatic immunity." On the view screen, Nia was still standing atop the fallen apex predator, acknowledging the crowd's agitation with a small, sardonic bow. Aftermath and ascendance. The Apex Arena, once a monument to brutality and spectacle, now pulsed with a new energy. The impossible had happened. A human exile, alone and outgunned, had survived every challenge the Confederation could devise. As Nia Carter stood atop the fallen apex predator, her chest heaving with exhaustion, the roar of the crowd rolled over her, a sound that was less bloodthirsty and more awestruck. In the upper tiers, Chancellor Varix watched the chaos unfold with a cold, calculating gaze. "Order must be maintained," he muttered to his advisor Jaren, who was already fielding a dozen urgent messages from rival houses and new syndicates. "This changes everything. She cannot be allowed to become a symbol." But down on the sand, Nia was already being swept away by a procession of armored guards and medical drones. The arena's ancient traditions demanded a victor's procession, but the air was thick with more than just celebration. There was tension, suspicion, and the electric crackle of change. The victor's procession. The ceremonial corridor was lined with banners from 100 worlds, each one representing a champion who had fallen in the arena's blood-soaked history. Nia walked with her head high, her wounds bandaged, her eyes sharp. The guards flanking her, one a stoic, horned Varkari named Cern, the other a silent, insectoid Kithrin called Vel, kept their distance, as if wary of touching a living legend. At the end of the corridor, the arena master Gorath awaited her, flanked by dignitaries and envoys. Gorath's 6 arms were folded in a gesture of respect. "You have done what none thought possible, Nia Carter. The Confederation owes you a debt and a decision." Nia inclined her head. "I want my freedom, that's all." A ripple of amusement passed through the assembled dignitaries. "Freedom is yours by law," replied Gorath, "but there are those who wish to offer you more. The Security Council, the Science Guild, even the House of Wagers, they all want a piece of the legend you have become. A crystalline envoy stepped forward, her voice musical. Our worlds have not seen such a disruption in centuries. You have proven the unpredictable strength of your species. Will you serve as our consultant, our advisor on survival and adaptation? Nia hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She glanced at the crowd beyond the glass, at the billions watching across the stars. I'll serve, she said quietly, but on my own terms. The Reckoning. As the ceremony concluded, a shadow fell over the proceedings. Ambassador Krell, his mandibles twitching with suppressed fury, stepped forward. There are still charges against this human: espionage, subversion, incitement. The Dominion cannot allow her to walk free. Gorath's voice was iron. The ancient laws are clear. She has settled her debts in blood and battle. The Dominion's challenge was met and exceeded. Do you wish to invoke the right of retribution? Krell hesitated, the eyes of the galaxy upon him. No, he said at last, voice bitter. Let the human have her victory, but know this, Carter, not all debts are paid so easily. Nia met his gaze, unflinching. I've paid more than you'll ever know. A new era's. The arena's gates opened, and Nia stepped out into the blinding light of the city. The crowd pressed forward, not with jeers but with cheers. Alien children waved banners, traders offered gifts, and even the stoic Varkari guards nodded in respect. For the first time, a human was not seen as prey or pawn, but as a peer, perhaps even a hero. In the shadows, Agent Kestrel of the Interworld Intelligence Directorate watched, recording every moment. She's a wild card, he whispered into his comm. If she chooses to lead, others will follow. A distorted voice replied, monitor her. If she threatens the balance, you know what to do. Kestrel's eyes narrowed, understood. The choice. Later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the city, Nia sat alone, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of bitter tea. The data chip given to her by Pex, the Yelthan technician, glowed softly in her palm. She slotted it into her portable, and a flood of information appeared: maps of the arena's hidden tunnels, records of ancient champions, and a single message. The arena is only the beginning. There are deeper games at play. Nia smiled, feeling the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders. She had survived the apex, but now a new challenge awaited, a challenge not of claws and teeth, but of politics, secrets, and the shifting alliances of a galaxy forever changed by her actions. As the city's lights flickered on, Nia stood and looked out at the horizon. She could return to Earth, claim her freedom, and fade into obscurity. Or she could stay, use her hard-won fame to shape the future, to fight for those who had no voice, to uncover the arena's oldest secrets. She made her choice.